it is kind of mundane. It's fun to play the game like that because you get to experience all these stories, but from the perspective of telling a story, it seems very boring and just meh. It's not very entertaining to read it from that perspective. Now, if I were to turn all these other characters from these other quest lines into their own individual person, they're not the Dragonborn,
Yeah.
they're not also the Archmage, they're not also the main protagonists of the Thieves Guild or the Assassins or whatever. That's the issue that I want to rid of my story, because I mean I kind of plan to write the other story arcs as well. Right now, though, I'm just working on the Dark Brotherhood one. To me, it's bringing more life to the game as it is,
Can I
and
hear
and
your
it is
story?
a
Are
bit
you
more.
willing to read
Yeah,
it to me?
I'm sorry.
Are you willing to read me your story?
Well, I don't have my material in front of me, and I have to hold this down, and it's in my phone in another area, and I can't get to it while I'm doing this. I can only tell you the best of what I've well, I could do it in an explanation. I can't do it word for word or anything because I can't remember how I worded things.
Uh-huh.
Um, but basically, um, so this little boy, he's at his house. Okay, this is the point when he basically escaped that honor hall orphanage place. I didn't exactly explain all that to you, but that will. I'll just go to this part of the story. I'm sorry, just because there's a little bit more that I would add to that. Like clearly, the kid would he found his way back to his home city and into his abandoned house by carriage. There was a guy on a carriage that was already going to that town, and the kid really needed to go back to his house. And the guy, the carriage rider guy, I gave him a name, but I don't know if that's necessarily needed. But I made it so the kid kind of like bargained with him. He's like, "Look, I can do anything, sir. I can go hunting. I can pick up sticks or something like that for fires because you might need that. You know, um, just please take me with you. Take me. I need to go to this city." And of course, the guy, he's like, he doesn't want to do it because he's like, this is someone's kid or whatever. I might get in some kind of issue. Who knows what?
What a
But
noble dude.
I
I'd be
mean,
like, what? A little slave? Fuck yeah.
well, I mean, I'm
I'd make
trying
him
to
pay
put it.
me. I'd be like, okay, but you gotta give me 50 silver, you little idiot. And then I'd make him, like, get everything ready for me. What? Man, this guy is too good.
Well, I try to make it a little bit more. The kid's trying to be useful, um, and the guy obviously he needs somebody because, like, okay, I could just write some writer's embellishment right now. Basically, the writer or the carriage driver, he used to have someone else with him to help him with all those things, but that guy, I don't know, maybe got attacked by bandits the last time they were out there. I don't know. It you can put in any what am I trying to say? You can literally put in any kind of outcome in the story. I mean, it's all fiction anyway. So,
Yeah.
and again, I said I'm novice at this, so I don't really. I'm not really super good at telling the stories.
Well, I think, like, alright, to me, if you're in, like, this rugged land and, like, he's, like, a newborn kid, or not like a newborn, he's just, like, a green person that is getting a ride from this dude. And, like, the dude, like, imagine, like, who he has approach him all the time, like, not hoodlums, maybe like whores or like people like posing as thieves, and like so he's kind of like an age, right? Like how old is this dude that's taking him?
Oh, well, I always think he's adult age in my
So yeah, so
in the
he's
game.
like so he's grown up. He's like past adolescence
Uh,
and like he understands that the
no,
world
no,
is
no,
like
no,
a
no,
harsh
but oh,
place.
no, hold on. Are you talking about the carriage driver or the kid?
The carriage driver.
Oh, okay, yeah, the carriage driver is definitely adult.
Yeah,
The
so
kid is like roughly maybe 12 years old. So I'm also trying to look at some of historical references as well. So in Nordic culture, um, I mean, I'd have to do a little bit more research on this, but I think they started their kids the Nordic culture like basically warrior kind of type. They trained their children a much earlier age to do certain things, but at the
mhm.
same time, maybe he doesn't know any of those things. Um, I also try to explain in the story that the kid comes from kind of a noble, not no, not noble. He kind of comes from a he's in good standing in that old city he was in before his mom was killed or dies. Or again, in the game, they don't necessarily follow where how his mom died. So that's one of those things. Whether I'm going to see if she's killed or if she just died from sickness or something.
Mhm.
Anyway, let
Wow.
me kind of skip some of this.
Oh, okay.
there's
Well, I
there's a
don't
lot
know.
of stuff I don't.
I thought it was cool. I'm still into.
Right.
I like brainstorming about this.
I actually like that too. I think it's kind of,
Oh
I
wait,
don't
hold on.
know
Wait,
if
but I
there's.
didn't finish my idea. So I like this story arc should be about him like learning like because something has to happen to him that he wants to do like the Guild of the Assassins or whatever, you know, or like he has to at least like uh come from some like
I
sort of
forgot to
naivety.
mention. Okay, so there is some naivety. There is. I forgot to mention. So this orphanage that he was at, the old lady that she's like the head mistress or whatever of
Yeah.
the orphanage. She's like this awful person, and she treats all the kids like shit. There are days where kids go without food, or they get beaten if they don't do whatever. Um, they're just little slaves, pretty much, in the orphanage. And he tells them, I'm gonna sneak out of this place, and I'm gonna hire the Dark Brotherhood, or I'm gonna summon them, basically a spell or something like that. He basically tells all these other kids in the orphanage that he's going to get the Dark Brotherhood to kill this old lady because he's too little. He's such a little kid that he can't do it himself,
I totally
right?
spaced out.
The funny thing is in the game, she's like this old lady, and I'm going, he couldn't kill her.
Well,
but
he's just like naive. Yeah, he doesn't know. It's
but
like he
yeah,
doesn't
right,
know
yeah,
that he
he doesn't
can.
have any of that experience, so
Yeah, yeah.
he has enough hate for her, um, because of his experience there, and I plan on adding more to the story in there. See, the problem is I started writing this a while ago,
Hmm.
and this was back when I was on Facebook. So it's only one of the stories though that I'm writing because there's several others within other video games that I've started. I haven't actually finished any of them, which is kind of sad, but um, I'm still passionate about it, and
I mean, yeah,
it's
as long
actually
as you
great to have
invest
this.
time into it, I think that's better than finishing any of it. You know, like what would be terrible is if you didn't finish any of it and you lost your passion for doing it, you know, and like you stopped doing it. But like
You
as long
know,
as you continue to build the world, like hey, you have it like open ended and like maybe eventually you realize like along the way, different parts of different stories that you made can tie together in a way like aside from like you could have like multiple universes.
yeah, yeah. That explains it. I
Yeah,
mean,
why
there
not?
there
It's
there have been times where I've run into the whole writer's block thing.
uh-huh.
That does happen. Sometimes it's either you're too bored of the story, and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna have to put this one down, work on a different one for the moment, and then I'll come back to it when I can, or when I feel like it, or whenever I get
Yeah.
the inspiration.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, I mean, that does happen. It has happened to me several times. But yeah, somebody, because at the time when I put this out there, it was back when I was on Facebook, which is like several years ago. But anyway, at the time I was doing these fan fictions for this game, and other people liked it. Um, but there was this one guy where he mentioned a certain writer off of a site called fanfiction.net. And at the time, I had no idea such a thing existed. So, like, I don't know.
What is it?
It's called fanfiction.net.
But wait, you had no idea what existed?
I had no idea a site like that
Oh,
existed
a site like
for.
that. Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
so it like opened your
I
fucking
was just
brain.
dabbling into it at first. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
he shows me this author that did the exact same story that I did or that I was doing, and he's like, you should read this guy's story. Or I don't know if it's a guy or a girl that wrote it, but I started reading. I put my story down because obviously I'm a novice at this, and I thought maybe it would help if I read someone else's story. And this other person mentioned that they're a really good writer, and I'm like, okay, you know what? Maybe I'll learn some things because there are times when I'm writing my stories where I may not add enough content to fully realize the world around me.
Okay.
And I mean, yeah, that's one of my own criticisms about my own stories. I want to create a bigger atmosphere that's filled with all kinds of things, but sometimes I'll skip over something and I'll go, man, why didn't I write this in there? That's why I have several different variations of the same chapter because there's always something I want to add to it. So I mean, maybe that's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing. But
I
so
think it's
anyway,
cool.
so oh crap, where was I? Lost my place in my brain here. I'm sorry, I forgot where I was going with that. Hold on a sec here. Well, I'll just start where the kid he makes it home. Okay. Um.
Wait, home being where?
His home city, the
Okay.
one that he, yeah, the one that he had to leave and got sent to the orphanage in the other city.
Okay.
So eventually he makes it back home. He finds out that his door on his house is locked. Apparently, the only people that have keys to it are the city guard. And he's trying to figure out how to get in there. Um, because I mean, the house does belong to him. It's actually his house, but he can't claim it technically within the law of the land or how the law of the land works. He basically has to be an adult before he can come back. So
Okay.
I mean, he just escaped this orphanage, but his prior mission is to kill that old lady at the orphanage because I mean he wants to free the other kids from her
Yeah.
treachery, but at the same
Okay.
time he's the only kid that has been um, I don't know if the term is man enough, but he's the only brave. There you go. He's the only kid that's brave enough to try to do this. So he's the only kid that's escaped, and he's the only kid that's trying to legitimately kill her. So um, I'm gonna skip the part how he gets into the house um, because I actually haven't written that part. But when he gets into his house, he
Yo,
finds
it's the shit show.
oh shoot! Now I just realized there's something I forgot. So there's this book that he comes across that's actually within the lore of the game. and it's the lore to the Dark Brotherhood basically. And he learns information from this book. I can't remember how. I was thinking of how he obtained the book. He probably stole it or something. Maybe. Anyway,
Maybe the Dark Brotherhood, like part of their lore is that like they try to recruit kids, and they have like an in to always know when a kid is orphaned, so like they can appear and deliver the book or something.
it's kind of funny. In the old games, not Skyrim, but one of the previous games, uh, the way the recruiting worked was your character basically had to kill anybody, whether it was in self defense or you attacked an innocent, and that's how you joined them. But in this game, that story arc was basically taken out because there's some other things happening within the Dark Brotherhood I that aren't necessary to disclose right now in this part of the story. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. Well, like yeah, like that could be part of the story, but not something that's explicitly spelt out in the book. You know, that could be part of the universe, but something not explicitly spelt out in this
Right,
book.
right. And I like your idea too. I do. I'm gonna, because I mean, in the game,
Because like I
he
like
ends
the
up.
idea. I hate the idea that magic like starts to disappear. I think it should still be there, like very prevalent, but in like more controlled ways. Like so how you were like the leader of it, like that is like the extent of some of your ability and like there's other stuff that like
Okay, so
I
the magic doesn't necessarily disappear. They still have plenty of magic in the game. It's just kind of different. It's not. So in the older games, there were certain magical abilities that people got, um, that were kind of miscellaneous or kind of dumb spells. But like, okay, let me just mention one of them that was just kind of dumb. Basically, you conjure armor onto your body, but it's not necessarily armor as it is more of a it's temporary. It lasts for a certain extended period of time, and then it shuts itself off basically. Now, this game has a version of that same armor, but it doesn't look like armor. They call it stone flesh or oak flesh or ebony flesh. Um, but they're all protection spells meant to protect you against magic or melee.
Wait, repeat that last part. It like
Uh,
these are like physical traits of it, not like things explicitly in your story.
oh no, no, sorry, no, they're not necessarily explicit to the story,
Oh, this is just part of the
but
universe. Okay.
yeah. So I mean, the magic doesn't.
But
Um,
it's not like the same sort of I guess like power that I'm thinking of when I think of magic. Cuz like yeah, like uh I understand the concept that like, you know, like things are enchanted and stuff, but like how there's like guilds and societies, they have to have like maybe okay, so maybe what the brotherhood have is has is like a it's like an orb or some shit that they look into, and that like tells them when the kids are alone and like their minds are susceptible to like joining the assassination or like
well,
whatever it is,
uh,
and then
actually,
it's like an item or
the
something
Brotherhood
rather.
has something similar. The
Oh,
Brother has
okay.
something similar, but it's not quite in that respect. I could go off the lore a little bit more and basically embellish the story. I try not to do that too much. I like to do that for the reasons of atmosphere, like make it seem like it's a much larger city than, like say the city he's in, make it seem much larger and more ancient than the game portrayed it as. but I try not to change too much of the lore, as that would kind of destroy some of the story plot.
True.
But I mean, there is a I guess there's an element within the story that's similar to that. Basically, they pray to this thing that they call the Night Mother. People that want other people to be assassinated will do this little ritual, or they'll get bones, and then they'll find a human heart. I don't know where they're going to go for that. There's catacombs that you could go in, and you could literally take someone's literal bones and stuff like that. You can collect all these ingredients, and you can find them in these places, but they're kind of hard to get to. But again, that's information that's going to be in the story. In the
Mhm.
game, he just has all those things in his house, and I'm like, how the hell did you get this skeleton? And how did you get the human flesh? How did you get the human heart? Where the fuck? How did you get this, you stupid little kid? Like, there's no explanation how he got all that stuff in his house.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so I still want him to have all that stuff because in the lore of the game, there is a literal book that has to do with the Dark Brotherhood that tells people how to summon the Dark Brotherhood, and it is very much of a ritualistic kind of thing, where you have to have the bones and all the other things, and then you do this kind of a. It's not necessarily a prayer as it is kind of a. I mean, it's more of a ritual than it is a prayer.
Uh-huh.
But they basically say you pray to the Night Mother, and she's like this evil skeleton kind of demon thing that runs the Dark Brotherhood.
Oh.
Kinda. There's more to it than that. I'm just not gonna try to explain it right here. But I mean, anyway. So he eventually summons, or he thinks he's summoning the. Oh, no. My story was gonna change that. Okay. Damn. Okay. So in the game, when he's trying to summon the Dark Brotherhood, and remember what I said about him. Uh, Whoever approaches him while he's doing this ritual, it could be any random person. In the game, it's you, the Dragonborn, which is the dumbest thing ever, especially for a story arc. But yeah, he runs into your character and he's like, "Oh my gosh, you're an assassin for the Dark Brotherhood," which you're not at this time. You're like, "Of course, kid, I am the Dark Brotherhood." You basically tell him that. But in my story, I plan on making it more mystical, and this person is a legitimate assassin from the Dark Brotherhood being summoned by this kid. Did you
Cool.
get all that?
I think so. It's like a lot, but I don't know. I'm excited to hear what comes of it.
The funny thing is, you could like go on YouTube if you wanted to and
What
look
can
up.
you can
The,
you give can you link me to like a good one?
Maybe might
If
take me a minute. Though.
take your time, dude. I'm here.
All right, cool.
Fuck, dude. If you're listening to them for the first time, I'll listen with you. Shit. What are you doing? Okay.
I'm gonna try to find one that's not too crazy long. This one that I just came across, it's like 3 hours. I'm like, there's definitely a way to shorten it. Like, I don't want you to watch the load screens and all that shit.
Alright, did you find one? Sorry, I was AFK.
Maybe. Hold on. I have to see if he's gonna actually show the story and not derail off of other. All right, this isn't the best clip, but it might explain some of the things I'm talking about. I'll just personal message you.
Those who shirk their duties will get an extra...
When I need to grow my business, I use Fiverr. I found a designer for my logo, a programmer for my website, writers for my content. Just search, click, and you're done. I love the results so much, I even got the logo tattooed on my arm. Sorry, wrong arm.
Stop dreaming and find your freelancer at
Oh
Fiverr.com.
god, this is definitely the worst clip I've ever chosen.
will get an extra beating. Do I make myself clear?
Yes, Growlithe.
And one more thing. I will hear me.
Just leave here. It's Grillin. Someone has killed Grillin. No more. Grillin is dead. I just did it. I can't believe it. Grillin is dead. Kind is She's dead really at last. We're saved. Yay!
When Aventus took off, when he said those things about killing Grillin, I never imagined he was serious.
Hurrah! Hurrah! Mercy! Kill one person and you can solve so many problems.
We love you, Dark
I
Brother.
wonder at the possibilities.
Mercy! When Aventus took off, when he said those things about killing Grillin, I never imagined he was serious.
You know what? Maybe this link will
Kill one person and you can solve so many problems. I wonder.
What'd you say?
I sent another link. Hopefully this one's a better one. Sorry, it takes a while to like research these to make sure they're going to show the right context.
What's up, guys? I wanted to show you a guide on how I joined the Dark Brotherhood. Now, in the description, there's going to be a written guide and probably a lot of other ways that you can join, but this is just kind of how it happened for me. So what we're going to do is go here, and I didn't actually have to go to any of the inns or the bars to talk to anyone. I was just kind of walking around, and I overheard them talking about how Ventus Argentino was trying to contact the Dark Brotherhood. So I just kind of listened to what they had to say, and then I talked to her. And I'm going to leave some of that dialogue in, and some of it I'm going to cut out. But basically what I did was, after I heard this, I went and broke into his house. Now, if you want to try to just go straight to his house, if these people are not outside like they were for me, and just try to break in anyways, I have heard that people have started it that way, and they didn't even have to go through anything else, so that may be something you want to try. So basically that's what I did, and then I just broke into his house and got the quest from him. So I'm gonna let some of this run through once I go in as far as the dialogue, so it may be a little boring. Feel free to skip ahead if you don't want to see it.
Mother, why won't you answer me? Sweet mother, send your child unto me. You've come at last! I knew you! It worked! I did the Black Sacrament over and over with the body and the things, and then you came! An assassin from the Dark Brotherhood! Of course you are! I prayed, and you came, and now you'll accept my contract! My mother, she died. The headmistress is an evil, cruel woman. They call her Grella. So I ran away and came home and performed the Black Sacrament. Now you're here, and you could kill Grella the Kind. Please hurry. To be honest, I'm kind of lonely here. As much as I hated getting sent to Honor Hall, I really miss my friends there.
So now you got the Innocence Lost quest, and if you go into your quest guide, you'll see it here. So now we're going to make our way to Riften to take care of her, and I'm going to show that in her dialogue as well. So again, once we get there, if you just want to skip that, that's fine, you won't miss anything. So I'm not going to show me walking through Riften either, because I mean it's a quest, so it tells you where to go. So I'm going to let this run through, and then I'll be back.
Those who shirk their duties will get an extra beating. Do I make myself clear?
Yes, Grella.
And one more thing. I will hear no more talk of adoptions. None of you riffraff is getting adopted, ever. Nobody needs you. Nobody wants you. That, my darlings, is why you're here. Why you will always be here, until the day you come of age and get thrown into that wide, horrible world. Now, what do you all say?
We love you, Grella. Thank you for your kindness.
That's better. Now scurry off, my little gutter snipes. What do you want? You have no business being in here. Veritino? Why, that little bastard. You tell him I'm coming for him, and when I find him, it'll be beating of his miserable life.
It's Grella. Someone has killed Grellin!
Grella is dead! Aventus did it!
Hooray!
Kill one person and you can solve so many problems.
We're
I wonder
saved!
the possibilities.
So now that that's done, and you can see how happy the kids were, we're going to make our way back to his house to let him know that we've completed the contract. And he'll give you his heirloom, and that'll end the quest. Now, once you do that, you're going to have to wait for a while. You can either just go about your game until it happens, or you can wait. So this is this part.
Grella the Kind. Is she, you know... Aha! I knew you could do it. I just knew it. I knew the Dark Brotherhood would save me. Here, just like I promised. This should fetch you a nice price. Thank you. Thank you again.
So you can see you got the heirloom, and what I did was I literally was just skipping like 24 hours at a time for about 5 to 7 days until the courier found me, and then he gave me this letter.
Creepy fella, black robe, couldn't see his face. Paid me
So I'll show you what it said here in just a minute.
Looks like that's it.
And once you get it, all you gotta do is find somewhere to sleep. Since I was already in Riverwood, I'm just gonna go to my house and do it. And once you do that, you'll see what happens here in just a second. So you'll get this letter. And like I said, I'm just gonna come over here to sleep in my house.
What are you doing that for?
It doesn't matter how long you sleep for. It's just gonna initiate a cutscene pretty much where they contact you and she lets you know that basically you took one of their kills and they want it back. So she's got 3 people lined up in this cabin and you have to choose one of them to kill or all of them, whichever one you want to do. And I'll kind of go through a little bit of that. I cut out a lot of it.
Sleep well.
And once you do that, she'll let you know where one of the sanctuaries
Doesn't
are.
matter. You're warm, dry, and still very much alive. That's more than can be said for old Grelod.
So I just killed this one. Like I said, you can kill all of them. It doesn't matter.
And I promise my associates will not let you down.
Come back and talk to her.
Ah, the feisty good wife. Quite the mouth on her. Someone must have wanted
She'll give
her
you the
dead.
password
Right.
and all that other stuff. So if you look way south on your map, there's the sanctuary. I went to the roadside ruins, which is a little bit above it, so I could just walk down to it. So now it's showing up on my map. It didn't show up at all before. I was actually here and it didn't mark it or anything for me. So I just kind of made my way over. And then all you gotta do is give it the password.
What is the music of life? Welcome home. Is the music?
And then all you gotta do is give it the password.
What is the music of life? Welcome home.
Whoa, that shit's crazy.
Selling your house is hard. From
Oh, I'm sorry, what?
The Dark Brotherhood seems cool as fuck.
Oh, yeah. It's kind of weird from the perspective of the player. Everything just seems kind of stupid, but it's actually a pretty good story. But, I mean, a lot of things in the game are really good stories, but because you're playing it,
You only
it
get like
doesn't
a
necessarily...
small glimpse of like a full thing.
Right, right. And, I mean, a lot of it is also based off of the player's experience. So that's the reason why some things just seem kind of funky. I mean, I do the same thing for another video game story that I have. Totally different game. But it explains things in kind of like a first person kind of a point of view. Anyway, you seem intrigued.
I am intrigued. You caught me.
Well, that's good. I'm glad. I mean, there's a ton of like lore in this game. I mean, this is just one small slice of the lore that's in this game. Because there's been other games in the series, and they write a ton of books that are based in the the world and society of these games. So they're quite extent. But again, I mean, when the writers wrote this game, there were a lot of things that they kind of either skipped out on explaining in the story, or because of the way the quests were framed, they only decided to show so much information so the player understands what to do and not just get all lost. All right, this one actually has a lot better lore information.
Hey, Rigby.
I just sent another one in your chat. So this one has much more information in it. And the guy explains it very, very well. I wish I found this guy the first time, but I completely forgot his name. I've listened to his videos much before. So.
All right, let me check him out.